Our campus must be dry.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Dry Campus Podcast. This is our 17th episode. I'm Sai Balabhadrapatruni here alongside with my co-host Ethan Dillman. Ethan, Indiana just had a pretty solid victory last night against Maryland. And it was really a tale of two halves. Once again, it's something that we've seen fairly often this season where we really come out of the gates looking sleepy, tired, like we don't want to be out there on the court, really not playing well. And then, Archie probably has something to say in that locker room, and a light comes up, and they start playing with a new energy, and they play a lot better in the second half. And that was the story of this game last night, where Maryland was really dominating us for a long time. We were really unable to score in that first half. Nothing going offensively, and defensively we were okay, but when you only score 21 points in a half, that's going to be problematic. But then the second half was a completely different story, and we were able to dominate the game on both sides of the ball, playing great defense, but also creating opportunities on offense. And as we said, our guys in the paint are gonna be our reason for success and our reason for victory. And they showed up, and Trayce Jackson-Davis had probably his best Big Ten game of the season so far, and really played big in the big moments. So what are your initial thoughts about this game, and the reason for our victory?
Yeah, this type of game, it actually reminded me of the Northwestern game, but we just actually finished this one. It had a lot of the similar types of a lot of similar types of attributes and characteristics that the Northwestern game had. We were down early against them, eventually came back, but we let that lead slip away. When Trayce Jackson kind of went off for them, and we weren't able to finish in that last 5 minutes. Whereas here, we were able to finish, and the way we finished, we didn't drain a bunch of threes, like you said. We went inside to our most, to our best player, to top to bottom, and Trayce, something clicked. I don't know what it was for him, but I remember we were down 10. Rob hits a three, may have been our first three of the game, which was probably sparked because I think we started out 0 for 9, something like that. We couldn't hit anything. Rob hits a three, then we called timeout. Then from that point on, Trayce was just on a whole other level. One of the keys, and one thing you've been really always harping on, was offensive rebounds. He listened. I'm seeing now he grabbed 4 offensive rebounds, 11 finished with 15 rebounds total. That's more than double what he had in the previous game against Penn State. Even though that was a win, we want Trayce to be more dominant. It seemed like every single time in the second half, if we had a missed shot, Trayce was going to be there for the offensive rebound. So I mean that was maybe the best half I had ever seen Trayce play. He was dominant top to bottom. Now I know Maryland doesn't have great centers or power forwards to match up against Trayce, but I don't think it would have mattered who was down there. You saw something in Trayce's eyes, and he's somebody that he just needs to make a couple of buckets to really get energized, and he started making them. Then he just kind of took off. But it wasn't all about Trayce. I think Al had a good game as well. He was able to finish around the rim, a little bit more consistent. Rob has played well these past 2 games. He really has. He didn't score as much this game, and he had a couple of missed threes that he probably should have hit. But defensively, he was very sound. He was, overall, I would say our defense was much more sound. Our perimeter defense was much better. They weren't getting many things underneath. There's still a few lapses where Maryland had some open threes there, but overall we were able to really shut them down defensively. They only shot 7 of 25 from 3, that's a good sign that our perimeter defense is getting better. Maryland, didn't make all of their open shots, but neither did we, so it kind of evened out. But the way I really liked last night's game because, like I said, it was reminiscent of that Northwestern game, but we finished this time. We were able to grab a hold of that lead and not let Maryland take it back. And I think that's a sign of improvement that is promising going into the tougher part of our Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, I think the best takeaway from the game last night for me is we won playing our style of basketball. And in the Penn State game, we won that game 87-85. That's a high scoring game. That's not the way we want to play games. We were lucky to escape that one, but we played more of Penn State's game than we played our own. Last night we played our game, and that starts off with playing great defense. And we played great defense throughout the game, not just the second half. The first half, we limited them to 27 points. It just wasn't looking great because of how bad we were offensively. But defensively, we really stifled Maryland. If you watch that second half, it looked like they really weren't able to do anything they wanted to do. And it created transition opportunities for us. Getting those stops on defense really, really energized our guys on offense and created more opportunities for us. And that's the way we want to play, where we play strong defense. And we're not going to be the best offensive team. We know that. We don't have the most talented guys offensively. But it's about taking the opportunities that you have, going to your best players at the crucial moments, going inside to Trayce Jackson-Davis, who had a spectacular game. And you alluded to it. Look, that's when we are at our best, when Trayce is dominant. He's getting those rebounds, offensive rebounds. We won that battle 12-6. There were a lot of second chance opportunities we had in that second half, especially towards the end of the game. And you and I talk about those last 4 to 8 minutes where that's when our offensive rebounding has been the most lacking. And that's actually where we were the strongest last night. We won that battle 12-6. Race Thompson had another double-double as well with 13 and 11. And, talking about Race Thompson, if there's a reason we were even in that game at the end of that first half, it's because of Race Thompson. He was the only offense, it seemed like, because no one could buy a shot. He was the only one who's getting the ball and going tough to the basket, trying to make plays and keep us in the game. But look, the thing about Trayce that I really liked to see was first half, nothing going. He's unable to finish. It looks like half the time, sometimes it looks like Trayce is just trying to draw a foul, and those shots look ugly. Last night in the second half, he was trying to finish. He wasn't. It wasn't even about drawing fouls anymore or anything. He's going strong to the basket, and that was something that I was really troubled by for a while watching Trayce the last few games, because it looked like he was just. I don't know what some of the takes were. It wasn't even a bad shot. It was a bad look. He shouldn't have taken the shot in the first place a lot of times. So I'm really happy we were able to kind of put him in the positions where where he can create more space and get to the basket more easily, rather than trying to take on 3 defenders at once, which is what we saw more so in the first half. Now, I also think this is a really impressive win because Armaan Franklin got hurt in that first half. And, that's a big part of our scoring. And it didn't look pretty for a while because, without Armaan, it's tough to rely on a whole lot of perimeter scoring or guard scoring in general. So, I hope to God Armaan is okay, because, Maryland is one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, and we're going to need Armaan back to play some of these better teams. But look, we played our game, and we as you said, even Rob Finney played some great defense, hit a big 3 to kind of start off that big run we had in the second half. And so there's a lot of positives to take away from this game, but I want you to kind of talk about maybe some of the negatives that we still need to work on after watching this game.
Well, how about the 4 of 22 from 3? And here's the thing. These shots that they're taking, they're good shots. they're with, they're within, for the most part. There are some bad shots in there, but they're within the rhythm of the offense. Al 1 of 6, Galloway 0 for 4 from three. Jerome Hunter 2 of 5 with the one where he hit it at the very end, and Archie was very mad about that. It was funny to see, but you gotta hate your shots at some point. I mean, this could have been a 20-point win if you just hit some of your 3 pointers. Um, that was bad. You play 10 other teams in the Big Ten. I don't know if you come out with this win shooting 18% from three, right? Shooting just has to be better. You just got to get out to a better start too. 21 points in the first half. It was doom and gloom in the first half. We have a group message with a lot of IU alumni, and we were harping on them because they weren't playing well. They couldn't convert, and at that point they were allowing one too many open threes as well. Weren't playing great defensively, but obviously we played much better, and kind of starting the 15-minute mark in second half on. Shooting has to be better. Also, just I would say just creating more turnovers in a way. We shared the amount of turnovers with Maryland. We both had 10. Um, I think we can create more turnovers, whether that be with steals, whether that be with um, forcing them to travel or whatever. But I think making sure that we're I guess ball hawking and being even more aggressive on the defensive end, we can get even more transition points. I'm not saying we played bad and didn't force a lot of turnovers, but I think we can force even more going forward because team one of the strengths I think of this IU team, or possible strengths, is that we can score in transition well. If we can force a turnover, we can push the ball and score there. And so being able to force more turnovers will be helpful. Um, but I did the main thing is just making your threes. Also, just making your inside shots. There were plenty of times, especially in the first half. Trayce was 9 of 18 overall in the game. A lot of those missed shots came in the first half. He was unable to finish around the rim. You got to finish around the rim, and I know he did that in the second half. Talk about a guy that takes some weird angles on shots. The way some of his shots are really weird, and I know it's because he's left-handed and he's got to, make sure that he uses his strong hand. Maybe he can work on his right hand a little bit. He can take the less awkward shots. But just so I'd say the main thing is just score the basketball. And I know that seems mundane and obvious, but like 4 of 22 from three, and you won the game. You only shot 37% total in the game. You shoot just a little bit better. This is a game where you can sit your starters the last 5 minutes of the game because we're going to be blowing them out of the water, and this won't cut it against, like I said, probably 10 of the Big Ten teams, 9 of the Big Ten teams. So I would just say mostly shooting the ball. I think that's the kind of obvious, downfall that we had in this game. And but it was interesting, like as take for example, Al Durham, he was 1 of 6, but that 1 3 was so important. I think we were down 5, and he nailed the 3, and it got us down 2, and it really gave us that hope of, all right, maybe we can actually start to take the lead here. But if he hits 2 more of his, he's 3 of 6. All of a sudden, you have more of a lead, and it's just a more secure lead. So 3 pointers, making sure you hit all of your inside shots. We actually were good from the free throw line, 83%. So that was solid as well. But yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, Al Durham 1 of 6, but the 3 was big. And a lot of our 3, we only made 4 of 22, as you said, 18%, which is terrible. But all of those 3s came at big times. Rob hit a 3 to kind of get things going, and then Al hit a 3 to kind of cut that lead even more. And then Jerome hit a couple big 3s as well to kind of contribute off the bench. But I will say, these scoring droughts, and there was one big one in the first half of 5.5 minutes, I believe, which is a long, long time. These scoring droughts will be a lot tougher to overcome against better offensive teams. Maryland is not a great offensive team. And that's really the only reason why we still had an opportunity to get back in the game. You know, the fact that we didn't score for 5.5 minutes and then we're only down 6 at the end of the first half, number one, tells you Maryland isn't one of the better offensive teams that we play this year. It also tells you, number two, we played solid defense, but still, we're going to need to fix this and make sure that we're having consistent scoring and mostly just know where to go with the ball when certain areas of our offense are being, kind of taken away by the defense that's being shown. If Trayce is getting double teamed here, what is our next step? What do we want to do with the ball here? Just having those natural progressions, and sometimes it seems like, that isn't there. I understand that was kind of at the point in time where Armand got hurt, and that's another thing. I don't know. I don't know what Archie was trying to do, but there were some questionable rotations thrown out there in that first half. I didn't like having Galloway, Leal, and Geronimo all on the floor at the same time with Rob and Race. I mean, that is a weak lineup to me, and an extremely inexperienced lineup where we're definitely not going to find offense, and it's going to be more of a defensive liability. I thought, Anthony Leal played a lot of quality minutes in this game, actually. I think he was kind of a liability, though, at times. He was, kind of making some bad passes. And obviously it's his first game, really playing significant minutes. But, at a certain point, you got to take a guy out when they're hurting the team actively. So I didn't think, he had a particularly good game, but, it's gonna be a matter of time. You want to see these guys play more and, develop over time. I was a little surprised that Lander still didn't really get that many minutes. Maybe he doesn't really fit into the defensive system that Archie has going on yet, and he still needs a little more time. Granted, he's 17, but that was just another kind of observation I made once Armand got hurt. And it begs the question, about our depth. If a guy really gets hurt and misses significant time, where are we really going to go? Because we don't really have a ton of depth from our front court, because Brunk is already hurt, and God knows when he's going to come back. And from our guards, not really either. Armand gets hurt. We definitely have a little more depth, but it was definitely a problem for a little while, and guys had to step up, and that's why Al Durham has to be key here. He's a guy who needs to step up and make sure that he contributes consistently. Consistency is the big thing here, because he scored 13 points, which was a good game, back-to-back game with double figures. He needs to have double figures, even if it's 10, 12 points. He needs to consistently do that on a game-to-game basis. So, that's really important that he plays big. I think he is our third best offensive weapon, alongside Race when he's having one of those games. But, we're going to need him to really step up, because, looking at that first half when Armand went out, depth was definitely something that came to mind as, hey, maybe we might be in trouble here, because we really don't know where to go anymore now that, one of our best offensive players is out.
Yeah, and it sounds. I had seen one quote from Archie and said it doesn't sound like he's going to play in the next couple of games. It was that bad of an ankle roll. So, I mean, we'll see. Though it wasn't official. Whenever there's an IU lineup, I always think, where is our scoring going to come from? Right? I look at the line and be like, where's our score? If Trayce is in the lineup, I'm like, all right, him. If Armand is in the lineup, now I he's deserved the respect. All right, him. Right? We can go to Armand. Outside of that, it's a little. Whenever Al's in the game, I know that he can score. He can be a little bit inconsistent, but I know that he can score. Outside of that, it's just kind of a luck thing. I mean, Race can be reliable for segments. Galloway can have some nice layups here and there. But somebody when like you said, when we had the lineup of Geronimo, Leal, Galloway, I think it was Rob and Rates. It's like, where is our scoring going to come from here? I keep on hearing Leal's a shooter, but he hasn't really. I don't know if he still has confidence yet. He just hasn't been in the right position. I don't think yet to be a strong offensive player. I think it comes with time too. Um, but yeah, when probably our second highest scorer is going to be out for the next couple of games, we're going to have, like you said, Al be always on. And then guys like, Jerome Hunter, you're going to have to score. Rob, you're going to have to score more on a consistent basis. Things like that. I will say, though, on the defensive end, um, all of the freshmen, I think, did a pretty good job. Leal had a really nice steal, and he was in great position. He was actually outmatched. A center was bumping up against him. He was able to steal the ball there. Geronimo, he's this just athletic guy that can, like, he towered for a defender. I was like, wow, like he could jump out of the gym. And I think he's a guy that can just really play some solid defense. Um, and I think that's why, and you hit the nail on the head, that's why Lander hasn't been playing as much. It's because I don't think he's fitting into the defensive scheme yet. And for Archie, from watching him coach the teams, it's defense first. It's always been defense first. Um, and so I don't think Lander has developed into the scheme as much as as much as Archie would have liked him to. So I don't think that. I think that's the biggest reason why he's not playing as much. But and let's Armand being out potentially for the next couple of games, maybe that introduces Lander more because we're a guard down. Um, but yeah, Armand going down that sucked. And we were able to pull this one out without him, which is a great sign. Whenever one of our top scorers goes out on a team that's not good offensively, and we were still able to outscore the other team, that's a great sign uh, moving forward that we can accommodate, when one of our guys is out. Um, but we have a very tough test on Thursday. Wisconsin is a defensive focused team, and they can also score. They can shoot the ball. They've always been a great defensive team, though. That they're a team that just beat a ranked Minnesota team as well. Believe they're 3-1 or 4-1 in the Big Ten, ranked in the top 10. And don't know when's the last time IU beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. I don't think we were born yet. It's been an extremely long time since we've won at Madison. It was just, it was the same thing for football. We were able to snap that streak, so maybe we can do it this time. But yeah, I guess, what are your final thoughts on the Maryland game here before we dive deep into the Wisconsin game?
Yeah, one thing that I just kind of wanted to touch upon, as you were saying, with Armand out, we were able to make adjustments and still win the game. And but it does say a lot when we win the game by scoring 63 points. 63 is a pretty low scoring number to win a game. So it's not like we got a ton of offensive production from someone new or anything like that. We got the same amount of offensive production that we usually get from these guys. Trayce just had an outstanding game. So it does worry me that I don't know if anyone can really step up and take some of the load that Armand was kind of providing us in these next few games. Now, one thing that and kind of going off of that, one thing that I want to see more of is from Trey Galloway. I want him to be a little bit less selfless in a way. I think he leaves a lot of opportunities to score out on the court because he's just so pass first oriented, and he'll make that extra pass even when he has open looks. There are a couple times where he'll have wide open looks for three, and he'll just drive or kick it out even then. And that kick out and drive leads to either a turnover or a much more contested shot at the end of the shot clock. So, I mean, we've seen his ability to drive and get to the hole. So he just needs to kind of, get more comfortable and because at the end of the day, I could really see him becoming a great playmaker in general. But in order to become a great playmaker, you have to give defenses the thought that you can score. If defenses think you're just gonna pass, they're gonna just play you like you're gonna pass. But you have to keep them on their toes, and if you can do everything, if you can pass, if you can score, that's when you're really the biggest threat. So I think Galloway really needs to, because right now he's in prime position as one of our best guards now that Armand's out, and he's going to need to play a much bigger role because, as you said, we don't know if Lander's ready yet. He's a little bit undersized, and he's still young, but he's a little smaller, and it's, I don't know if he can defend a ton of guys in the Big Ten right now. So that's why Galloway is a guy that I think really needs to step up and try and score the basketball a little bit more. Those are kind of my last thoughts on the Maryland game, but kind of moving forward into the Wisconsin game, this is going to be a really interesting game, Ethan, because if you look at points allowed by teams in the Big Ten, Wisconsin is number one. So Wisconsin's the best defensive team in the Big Ten, but we are number two. So these are the top two defenses in the Big Ten going up against each other. And the way I kind of see this Wisconsin basketball team, they are kind of just a better version of us on all fronts. They kind of play the same style of basketball, but they're just better at it, and they can make threes. They have, I believe they're 41.4% 3-point shooting as a team. Pretty much all their guys can make threes, and they have pretty balanced scoring from their entire team. They have 5 guys who are averaging 10 plus points per game. So that's pretty impressive. But again, their calling card is defense. They don't score a ton of points throughout the game. So there's an opportunity for us to kind of play our style of defense as well and really just make this a defensive game. I think that's the best approach to this, because it's going to be tough offensively. We're not the best offensive team. We know that. And they're a great defensive team where it's going to be tough to score. But we also kind of want to match their defensive intensity and we want to make this a low scoring grind out, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Wisconsin's always a team that doesn't have like the one star player, or even the 2-star players. They're very spread. They have Trayce, who's their leading scorer, but he's only at 14.2 points per game. Micah Potter is one of the best forwards in the Big Ten. He's always there. Brad Davidson, a really great guard. He can shoot really well. That's the way Coach Guard kind of, coaches his team is kind of spread out on the offense and then really hammering on the defensive side of the ball. They are going to be very tough to score on. However, what's going to be key, and like you said, matchup defensive intensity, I think that's extremely important. But also, you have to score at a somewhat consistent basis. If we're going to go on one of those streaks of 5 or 6 minutes without scoring, we're not going to win this game. Because in that same streak, Wisconsin's probably going to hit, 1 or 2 3-pointers. And once Wisconsin gets that lead on you, that even 8-point, 10-point lead, it's going to be extremely hard to come back because, like you said, number one defense in the Big Ten. They're very mentally. I've always thought that Wisconsin too, basketball IQ wise, they've always been a very smart basketball team. And this year's no different from any other year. They're very smart. They know where to pass the ball. They don't turn the ball over a lot, really. Just a fundamentally sound basketball team. And so we also need to make sure when we're on the offensive end, if you don't score, at least don't score by missing the shot. You can't turn the ball over. No travels, no sloppy passes. At least get a shot up every single time. This can be very, very important because we're gonna need every single bucket that we're gonna earn. The winner of this game may be in the 50s. That's a very possible and realistic outcome of this game. And though we've seen Wisconsin's vulnerable. Their one loss in the Big Ten, oddly enough, is Maryland in Madison, Wisconsin, nonetheless, too. So it is a beatable team. That I mean, I know, I wouldn't say any Big Ten team is unbeatable, but this is a team that is beatable on our standards, and we can win this game. Whether we do, I'm really not sure. Um, but we need our typical guys to step up. Obviously, Trayce still needs to have a great game. Race, if he can grab another 11 rebounds, that'd be great. But what's going to be key is, most likely with our Armand being out, we need somebody else to step up. Whether that's Rob, I'm talking about stepping up scoring wise. Whether that's Rob, whether that's Galloway, kind of outside of Trayce and I still expect Al to at least, I think, hit 10 points. Somebody else needs to be in double digits, whether that's Race, like I said, Rob, Race, Galloway, somebody else I think really needs to step up, because without Armand, I saw the stat before he went down. He was averaging 18 points a game in the last, I think, 5-6 games. I mean, he was providing that much scoring for us. And with that out of the picture, we need guys to fill the gaps. And maybe it's a mix of Galloway and Race and Rob kind of filling that gap. And we kind of saw that at the end of the Maryland game. But we need to make up that gap, because we got to score every point we can. Wisconsin's very sound. They'll play great defense, and they're gonna hit their open shots, hit their free throws. They are not mistake prone. So we need to also just take care of the ball. One more thing before I pass it on to you. Coach needs to sit Jerome Hunter down. Be like, when you're guarding the three, don't hit the guy. Don't. I mean, he almost single-handedly brought Maryland back into that game. When they go shoot a three, yeah, put your hand up there for sure and try and guard it, but don't go forward, because three free throws is not good, especially to a team like Wisconsin that's going to be good from the free throw line. So
yeah, that was extremely frustrating when that happened. But look, I think the big, one of the big metrics watching this game will be who wins this matchup between Trayce Jackson-Davis and Micah Potter. I think that's going to be a really fun little battle to watch. And it's going to be important. Who's going to get those offensive rebounds? Who's going to win that battle? Who's going to get those second chance opportunities? Because, we're not a great perimeter scoring team. As we talked about, we're 18% from the 3-point line. But some of those rebounds that Trayce was able to get were able to help us out in those second chance opportunity situations. So that's going to be another little battle to watch as well. Wisconsin also, as big as they are, and they are, considerably have more size than teams we've played recently. As good as they are, they also kind of struggle on the rebounding side of things. So, that it's not an out of the question, we're going to lose this game type of situation. If we win some of these little battles, it's up in the air. The other thing, 3-point shooting. And I'm not saying we need to make a ton of threes, but the differential has to be better. We can't lose that war by a ton. We can't shoot 22 and miss 18. That's 18 empty possessions, on which a lot of those possessions we just didn't know what to do with the ball, and it kind of went to the end of the shot clock, and we chucked up a bad shot. So again, smart shot making, smart shot creation, getting ourselves opportunities to get good looks is going to be important. And then again, as you said, limiting turnovers, making sure that we play a clean game, because they're going to play a clean game. Archie Miller has been talking about how he, as bad as things might be offensively, turnovers are kind of the thing that he's worried about the most. And We've been a little better as we've talked about, but there have still been a couple games where we're creeping into that 13, 14 turnover category, which, that's not going to win us the games against teams like Wisconsin, who are going to limit their mistakes. So, that's really what it is for me. I think, Wisconsin has a lot of size, but if we want to win this game, we're going to need to win that size battle, and our bigs are going to need to have a great game, and Trayce needs to have a great game, and he's going to have to make sure he limits Micah Potter because, sure, Trayce had 22 and 15 in the last game. Micah Potter had 18 and 11 against Minnesota in that latest game. So this is a real big. It's gonna be a real challenge. So, we haven't seen Trayce have one of these great games against one of the better bigs in the conference yet, and that's kind of gonna be the next step to, for him to develop and grow because the narrative's there as Trayce Jackson-Davis is one of the best big men in the country, but can he do it against other great big men? That's going to be the question to watch, and that's going to be something we need to see on the court on Thursday.
Exactly. And you look at the teams we've played, right? Illinois had Coburn. That was definitely not Trayce's best game. That was probably his worst Big Ten game. You look at a team like Florida State that had size. Yeah, Trayce played well. We ended up losing that game. Texas had size. And I know Texas is, I think, very good, but Trayce was pretty much a non-factor that game as well. So again, tough opponent, Micah Potter. He's been there, done that. He's been in Wisconsin for a while. He's a great, just sound big man. But also Micah Potter, he's not Coburn. He's not at the level of Coburn. Definitely not at the level of Luka Garza. So, this is I think a perfect game for Trayce to be a stepping stone into the kind of great category that I think he's in right now to the Big Ten elite category where a team purely focuses on stopping you because you are clearly the best player. And I know teams already do that, but I think on coaches will have a different mindset preparing for Trayce than preparing for Luka Garza. I mean, even that difference, or even Coburn. I would personally probably be more worried about Coburn than Trayce, as good as Trayce is, right? But in order for Trayce to get at that level, at the Coburn and Garza level, he's got to make sure that, hey, I'm better than a guy like Micah Potter, who's an established Big Ten big in the Big Ten. So, you hope Trayce can just start where he left off in the Maryland game. He ended hot. Hopefully he can start off hot. And I hope that we're probably going to be down at some point in this game. If we're down 4 points, 6 points, in the first half or even second half, Trayce needs to stay mentally there, mentally energetic. Because unfortunately, I think there's a stark difference in his visible emotion when we're down and when we're up, right? When we're up, he's active, he's like, let's go, let's go. When we're down, he doesn't have that same intensity. He's going to have to keep that same intensity, right? And yeah, you don't, gloat when you're down 10. Obviously, you have work to do at that point. But he's got to keep the same intensity throughout the whole game. That's going to be very, very important because if Trayce doesn't have a good game, we're not going to win this game. That's going to be the case for nearly every single game we play. So it's going to be very, very important for him to start off right. Also, I keep thinking offensive end, play sound defense. Make sure Potter doesn't score the basketball. He'll get his, but you gotta limit him as much as you can, and at least force Wisconsin to just kind of outshoot us and rely on threes, which I know they can, but at least take the post play away from them. And another important point, like you said, we got to out rebound them. They're not a great rebounding team. We actually, we're virtually both average 35 rebounds a game. So out rebounding them is going to be very, very important, and on our missed threes, which I'm sure we're going to have plenty, getting those offensive rebounds by Trayce and Race, right? We haven't talked about Trayce. Race also had 11 rebounds against Maryland. I think also had 4 offensive rebounds. So he's been great at that. You got to keep that up because us getting second chance opportunities will drastically improve our chances of winning this game, especially with a guy like Armand most likely out. So um, I want to pick us. I really do. But I think without Armand, I think Wisconsin's, like you said, Wisconsin's almost just a better version of us. And I think they get us. Um, I think they win by about 5. I don't know what the final score will be. Maybe 60-55, something like that. Um, I think they're just that many points better than us. When they have the better 3-point shooting, they're statistically better on defense than we are. I think they're just a couple of possessions better than us. That down the stretch. But like I said earlier, we finally finished a game against Maryland. I hope they can prove me wrong because I can, like I said, guarantee you, we're going to be within a possession or two at the 4-minute timeout, right? We finally finished a game against Maryland. Let's hope that we can carry that and have that determination and strength and stamina to finish against, a great team like Wisconsin.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you. I think this is one of those games where they kind of sustain a 5-6 point lead throughout the game, and we're really never able to kind of draw even with them. I think it really comes down to defense. I think the way we win this game is to kind of win that battle with Trayce and play better defense than they do. Because, as you said, without Armand, it's going to be tough to find additional scoring. So what do you do when you don't have that additional scoring? You play better defense and you try to kind of clamp them down. So I'm going to go even less scoring than you did, and I'm going to go 59-52. Wisconsin wins this game. Just as we both said, I think they're just better top to bottom across the board than us at kind of everything, but kind of slightly better than us at everything. So they really are just a uh, just a kind of better version of us because they do play similar style of basketball. But I think those 3-point shots are kind of going to make a difference in this game, unless Trayce is able to kind of win that battle against Micah Potter, in a big way, and that's gonna be really important, especially down the stretch as we talk about in those last 4 to 5 minute situations. That last segment, how we're able to play, how we get the offensive rebounds there. I think it's going to be one of those games where you can throw the first 36 minutes out the gate, and kind of if we win that last 4-minute battle and we win the offensive rebounding, we win the battle down low, and we win that turnover differential and kind of limit the amount of 3-point shots they're able to make. Um, that's really going to be kind of our keys to victory.
Yeah, and I think another battle too. Greg Gard is, I think, one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. Archie still, I think, has to prove himself as that. To I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but big time road wins in the Archie era. I remember we had that Michigan State win when we had Romeo Langford. Other than that, we haven't really gotten that many great Big Ten road wins. This is a chance, especially this year when the crowd is pretty much a non-factor. But you know, Archie needs to add to his resume some quality road wins, and I think this is an opponent that is beatable in a year where there's not going to be much of a crowd. Um, I think it's kind of hard to say who's going to outcoach who because a lot of it does depend on the players. But Archie needs to coach a smart game. He needs to have the right lineups out there at the same time. Or as with Armand being out, he needs to have guys out there that can score, right? And when you have the lineups like the 3 freshmen plus Race and Rob, there's not going to be a lot of scoring that comes from that, right? And I know Trayce is going to need his rest, but I don't know if I'm ever if I'm preparing for this game, I don't know if I'm ever going to have Trayce and Al sitting at the same time. I don't think that can happen. And so I think he needs to be smart with his rotations. He needs to call proper timeouts. If Wisconsin goes on a 6-0 run, call timeout right away. Stop the run, get the players settled, right, and then move on, because you can't let this game get out of reach. So RT needs to be on top of his game. Coaching the right game that he needs to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be important to win that coaching battle as well, and making the right adjustments and making sure we have the right lineups out there on the court. So, yeah, I think we're both kind of along the same lines of this is gonna be a close loss in a lower scoring game, and I want it to be a lower scoring game. I think that's the best chance we have. So that's the type of game we want to be playing. But again, it's going to kind of come down to the little things down the wire. So it's going to be really exciting. We're really excited for this one. It's going to be an opportunity to play one of the better teams in the Big Ten. I think they're a top 10 team as well. So that's
number
also
8.
They're number 8. Yep. So it's a top 10 game. So it's a big opportunity. And we're 2-2 in the Big Ten. So that's great progress from 0-2 to kind of get back to 500. We're back in the middle of the pack in terms of where we lie in the Big Ten standings. So, if we can get a win here, that's just massive momentum, especially going into kind of a schedule where we have Nebraska and then Purdue to kind of, two of more of the bottom feeder teams of the Big Ten to kind of really strengthen up our record in the Big Ten before that gauntlet of games that start in mid-January. So that's going to be really important. We're going to be really looking forward to it on Thursday night at 7 p.m. on the on Fox Sports 1. And we will be live tweeting the game as well at PodDry on Twitter and at Dry Campus Pod on Instagram. As Ethan likes to always say, you should please subscribe to our channel. I'm taking a little bit of his thunder this week by saying it, but yeah, that's really all I have to say about this Maryland game and moving forward to the Wisconsin game. Do you have any last thoughts here, Ethan?
Let's go get it. I don't think we have a ranked win yet. We came close against Florida State. We came close against Illinois. Let's go get that quality win, because that's the kind of the one thing we're missing from our resume right now is that real quality win. This one would be on the road, which would be even better. So let's go get it.
Let's keep things going. 2 solid wins where we're slowly seeing improvement in a lot of different areas. So let's keep that momentum going and get a huge win against Wisconsin. We'll be really excited for that one, as I know all the fans are as well. We want to thank you here at Dry Campus for tuning in to another episode here. We'll have a couple more podcasts coming up very soon. We're going to have a football podcast at some point to kind of recap the entire season and the extremely disappointing loss at the Outback Bowl this past week. But overall, a great football season, probably the best we've had in years. And we're going to talk all about it at some point soon. Kind of been crazy scheduling podcasts at the moment. Ethan is on vacation right now in Florida, so we're a little all over the place, but we will have everything ready to go. The football podcast might come a little bit later, but we'll have everything you guys need as fans. So again, we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll be back soon here on Dry Campus.
Our campus